everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck and today I am doing my April TBR. I don't usually make TBR videos, although I really only have like 3 months of doing this as precedent, so you know, always trying new things. So I thought I'd let you know what I plan to be reading in April. I'm usually pretty good at predicting what I'm going to want to be reading in a month, but I am very much a mood reader, so I'm going to be mood reading my way through this month. So these are less of like a TBR and more of a reading predictions. I guess that's what I'll call it. These are reading predictions. This is me trying to predict what I'm gonna want to read in April. Anyway, let's just get started. The first book that I will be reading in April is Dar Oakley in the Ruin of Ymir. I always don't know how to say that because it's Y-M-R. Do you say Y-M-R or do you try to pronounce it as Ymir? I don't know. But this book, first of all, I have to say, has a beautiful cover. I love this cover so much. This one definitely drew me in with the cover, but it also sounds interesting. It sounds very strange. I don't know how to explain what this book is about. It follows a crow named Dar Oakley, and there's something special about him that he has a name when most crows don't have names, I guess. And it's kind of about his travels. He travels like all over the world and interacts with different parts of history and mythology, I think, and maybe even travels to the underworld. I'm not 100% sure. It has a very confusing description, but it sounds interesting. When I saw this book, as I said, I picked it up because I love this cover. But then I was reading the description and I was like, this sounds so weird. I love it. And so I had to get it. Oh, something just dropped. Oops. Then recently I was kind of eyeing this book on my shelf and I was looking it up again on Goodreads and reading reviews, and people have said that they love the writing in this book and how like poetic and beautiful it is, and I love like lyrical poetic writing, so I was like, this sounds perfect and amazing. So between the just like weirdness of the story and that it's supposed to have really beautiful writing, I was like, this sounds perfect. I need to read it. And as I said, I've been eyeing it on my shelf and really wanting to read it. So this is probably the first thing that I will be reading in April. My next reading prediction for April is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This one I am very excited about. Back in January, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab and loved it. And that was the first book that I've ever read by her. And now I'm like, I need to read all the things that V.E. Schwab writes. So I got this one, and for some reason I haven't read it yet. So I need to get around to it because I feel like I'm gonna love it because I loved Vicious so much, and I know that like this is a different series and different characters and setting and all of that, but same author, so feeling really optimistic about this one, and I'm very excited. Oh yeah, so this book, I don't know a ton about it, but I know that it takes place in London, but there are 4 Londons. There's Grey London, Red London, White London, and Black London. Some of the Londons have magic, some of them don't, and only certain people are able to travel between these Londons. We follow a guy named Kell, I think, who is able to travel between these Londons, but he also is a smuggler, and I think smuggles like magic or magical items or something between these different Londons. So this sounds like it's going to be interesting. I have heard both amazing and not so great things about this one. I know there's a character, I think called Lila Bard, who's in this, that some people absolutely love and some people cannot stand. So I'm interested to see where I fall on that, but I'm very excited about this one. The next book that I have is one that I actually recently got because it's a pretty new release, which is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I actually saw Alexandra Christo speak at a book event that I went to because I went to the Nova Teen Book Festival at the beginning of March, and I got to see her talk on some panels about her book and her morally great characters and her world building and all of that, and it was really cool, and it made me more interested in reading the book. I actually had already ordered the book and then went to the book event and realized that she was there. I didn't even know that before I like ordered it, And I was like, well, that's exciting because now this is getting me like more hyped for this book that I just ordered. So this follows a siren. It is supposed to be kind of like a dark Little Mermaid retelling, because instead of like a cute little mermaid, it follows a siren who steals people's hearts. Like, she reaches into their chest and rips out their hearts and then buries them in the sand in her bedroom. So that's really weird but really awesome. I think this sounds like it's going to be very dark but really cool, and I read the first like paragraph or something from this and it sounds great, and I think I'm gonna really like the writing, so I'm super pumped about this. The next book that I have is another new release, which is one that I haven't seen like anybody talking about, but I'm very excited about it, which is Torn by Rowena Miller. So this is one that just came out in March, and first of all, I want to say I love this cover. I love these kind of covers that have this kind of like old parchment kind of look to them, and also you can see these are actually sewing needles on the front, and I think that's really cool. This one follows our main character Sophie, who is a seamstress, and that's part of why I was excited about this, because I sew, and so I was like, oh, this is cool. It's gonna be like a fantasy book about a seamstress and someone who sews and like sewing magic. Super excited about that. Anyway, this follows Sophie, who is a seamstress, and she sews beautiful dresses, but she also is able to sew magic and spells and charms into the clothes that she makes. And so she becomes very well known for this, and so she also is very talented in her designs, and she becomes kind of like seamstress to the stars, but you know, to the royalty or the nobles or whatever. And she makes beautiful ball gowns and things for different people, and she can sew in love spells, protection charms, whatever it is you need sewn into your clothing. And I just thought that was such a cool concept. So in this, her brother is kidnapped and held for ransom. The people tell her that she has to either sew a curse into the queen's gown or her brother dies. So kill the queen or her brother dies. And so she has to decide what to do, and what is she gonna do in that situation. I think this sounds really cool. I love that idea of like working magic into the things that you make with your hands, you know, that it's not all this like woo-woo like casting spells kind of magic. It's much more practical, like actually creating things with your hands and working the magic into it. I think that sounds like it's gonna be really cool. And she's a seamstress and I sew, so I thought that would be fun to read about. I just think this is going to be a great time, and I'm very excited about this one. And my last book prediction for the month is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. So this is one that I have had on my shelf for a while, and I have been meaning to read because I am trying to read all of Robin Hobb's books now. I've only read the Farseer trilogy so far, but this is the first book in her Live Ship Traders series. This one I've heard is written very differently than the Farseer trilogy, but I've also heard that it's usually people's favorite series by her, so I'm excited about that. In this series, we follow a group of seafarers who have these ships that are able to quicken, which means that if a certain number of people in one family die on this ship, then somehow their deaths and their spirits kind of bring the ship to life, so it has its own consciousness. And when that happens, these ships become extremely valuable because they are conscious. We follow this girl who I think her father dies on the ship, which quickens it, and she inherits it, but there is someone else who wants this ship because they are extremely valuable. And so she has this conflict that she has to get this ship that belongs to her, but is going up against this guy who really wants it as well. I don't know if there are pirates in this, but I have a piratey vibe from it, but that may just be because there are ships, and apparently I just associate ships with pirates. But I think this one will be really cool. I have heard really good things about it, as I said, and I've been wanting to read more Robin Hobb. I liked the Farseer trilogy, but it wasn't like my favorite thing, but I really like her writing. And as I've said, I heard that the writing in this is very different in style, but I like her writing overall, so hopefully I will like the writing in this one too. Anyway, I'm pretty excited about this one, and I hope that I get to it in April. So that is all for my April reading predictions. Let me know in the comments what books you are planning to read for April, or one book that you're like most excited to get to in April. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!